We didn't get you anything, Dad said, offering me bread while my brother enjoyed a $400 steak. His wife added coldly, just be glad you're invited. When the bill showed up, Dad said, we'll split it fairly. I said, okay, I'll. The message showed up on a Tuesday afternoon. Dad, family dinner Friday night. Morton's Steakhouse. 7 p.m. Your brother's paying. Be there. Not really a request, more like an order. Morton's. The kind of place where the appetizers alone cost more than what I usually spend feeding myself for a whole week. My brother Brandon never included me in things. Honestly, he avoided doing so. We hadn't been close since he married Lena 3 years back and decided I wasn't impressive enough to be part of his upgraded world. But Dad wanted me there, so I figured I'd go. Sounds good, Dad. He shot back, dressed nice. It's a classy spot. I should probably explain how this all works. I'm 32, a software developer, making decent money, comfortable, not flashy. Brandon is 35, an investment banker with ridiculous income, the kind of guy who casually mentions his Hamptons place like everyone has one and talks about his Tesla as if it were just some ordinary sedan. Growing up, we were equals. Somewhere along the line, though, Brandon turned into the golden child, and I became whatever sits in the shadow of that. Forgettable, I guess. Mom used to keep things balanced, making sure we both felt seen. But she passed away 2 years ago, and everything slid off center. Dad drifted toward Brandon, bragging about Brandon's accomplishments like they were his own, and looking at me the way someone looks at a participation ribbon. And Lena, Brandon's wife, she stared at me like I was something tracked in on someone's shoe. She came from old money, did boarding school in Switzerland, met Brandon at a charity gala. At their wedding, she put me at table 17 in the far back, right next to Brandon's college roommate, who spent the entire night lecturing me about crypto. So yeah, a family dinner at Morton's was bound to be something. Friday rolled around. I put on my best dress shirt, navy blue, good khakis, and the shoes I basically only wear to funerals. I drove over and parked 3 blocks away because valet was $30, which felt insane. I walked in at 6:58 p.m. The hostess gave me a look like I'd wandered in off a bus line. Can I help you? Meeting my family. Reservation under Brandon Walsh. Her whole attitude changed instantly. Of course, right this way. She guided me past tables filled with people wearing suits that probably cost more than my monthly rent, past someone slicing into a steak the size of a football. She brought me to a corner booth, prime spot. Dad sat there in a full suit and tie. Brandon wore a custom suit and a watch that could have paid my bills for months. Lena had on a dress that practically shouted personal shopper. They looked up. Dad smiled and said, there he is. I slid in beside Lena, who subtly shifted away. You look nice, Dad said, with the tone of someone who didn't totally mean it. Brandon didn't bother looking up from his phone. Glad you could make it. Been insanely busy. A waiter showed up. Can I start you with drinks? We'll take the Camus, Brandon said. Special selection. About $200 for the bottle. And for you, sir? The waiter asked me. Water's fine. Lena made a tiny noise, half scoff, half disbelief. You sure? Dad asked. Brandon's treating, but he said it in a way that suggested I shouldn't push my luck. Water's good. Brandon leaned back. So, how's work? Still doing the computer thing? The computer thing, like I fixed jammed printers somewhere. It's going well. I just wrapped a major project. Nice. Must be steady. Reliable paycheck. He traded a look with Lena. Not everyone's built for high-risk careers. And there it was, the jab. The waiter returned with wine and poured for everyone but me. Should we order? Dad asked. Brandon grabbed his menu. I'm thinking the ribeye. 48 ounces. Rare. 3 pounds of meat. For $100. Lena tapped her menu. Filet and lobster. Surf and turf. Dad nodded. New York strip. Medium rare. Then they all stared at me. I scanned the menu. Everything felt absurdly expensive. The cheapest entree was $55. The salmon seems good, I said. $70. Somewhere in the middle. Brandon set his menu down. Actually, we should go ahead and mention something. Lena and I are celebrating tonight. Big promotion. 7-figure deal. So we're ordering for ourselves. I blinked. Okay. We didn't order for you, Dad added. Didn't want to assume. Wait. I thought Brandon was treating. He is, Lena said with a bright smile. For the family celebration. The 3 of us. Oh. They'd invited me to a family dinner. Except apparently, I wasn't part of the family being celebrated. So I'm paying for myself? We'll split it, Dad said quickly. Fairly. At the end, Brandon waved the waiter over. We're ready. He ordered the ribeye, added truffle butter, and threw in lobster mac and Brussels sprouts. Lena ordered her surf and turf with extra lobster. Dad asked for his strip with a loaded baked potato and creamed spinach. Then they waited for me. I shut the menu. The bread basket is fine. Lena's eyebrows shot straight up. The bread basket? I'm not that hungry. But you drove all the way here, Dad said. For the company. Brandon laughed. You're kidding. I'm fine with bread. The waiter hesitated. Sir, the bread basket is complimentary. Perfect. Then that's what I'll take. Lena leaned toward me. You can't seriously just eat bread. It's what I want. This is embarrassing, she whispered to Brandon. He shrugged. If he wants bread, let him have bread. After the waiter left, Lena looked right at me. You should be grateful you're even invited somewhere like this. I smiled and kept my mouth shut. Because honestly, she wasn't wrong. Not everyone got a seat at Morton's. Apparently, I didn't either. Not really, since I'd be eating nothing but bread while my family toasted themselves. When the food arrived, Brandon's steak came on a platter like some display piece. Massive and almost ridiculous. Lena's surf and turf looked like it belonged in a glossy magazine. Dad's strip was a hefty 16 ounces. I had bread, sourdough, wheat, herb rolls, butter, plenty of butter. I grabbed a roll, slathered it, took a bite. Good bread. Really good. But still just bread. Brandon sliced into his steak, deep red in the middle. Want a bite? He asked, like he was testing me. I'm good. He shrugged, took a dramatic bite, and made a show of enjoying it. They ate and ate. Brandon finished maybe a third. Lena barely touched hers. Dad left half. I sat there finishing my bread while watching them waste hundreds of dollars on food they barely appreciated. Then they ordered dessert. Chocolate lava cake. Creme brulee. I said no thanks. Finally, the waiter set the check in the middle of the table. Nobody moved. Then Dad cleared his throat. So, should we split this fairly? Fairly? Yeah. Everyone covers their portion. I pulled the bill toward me. I opened the check and felt my stomach drop. $1,247. I scanned through the list. Brandon's steak, $400. Lena's surf and turf, $145. Dad's strip, $89. Then all the appetizers, the fancy sides, the overpriced wine, the desserts, and down at the bottom, the bread basket listed as complimentary. Sweet. Brandon cleared his throat. So for ways. He sounded casual, like we were divvying up a pizza. About $300 each. $300. For me. A guy who ate nothing but bread. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want to split a $1,200 tab 4 ways. Fairly, Dad stressed. Because we're family. I ate bread. And you enjoyed a nice evening. Lena cut in, like she was granting me a privilege. At an exclusive restaurant. I ate bread. Brandon let out a sigh. When you go out to dinner, you split the bill. That's the rule. When everyone orders food, sure. But I ordered bread. Complimentary bread, Dad pointed out. So you didn't actually pay for anything. So you expect me to cough up $300 just to sit there and watch you eat? For being part of the family dinner, Dad corrected. I looked from Dad to Brandon to Lena. Then I reached into my wallet. I pulled out 3 single bills, set them neatly on the table. There. That covers the bread. You 3 can divide the rest. Brandon's face lost color, then immediately flushed bright red. You're joking. You want it fair. The bread was free, but I'll throw in $3 for the butter. Lena's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. The bill is itemized. Show me where I'm wrong. What did I consume that equals $300? Dad opened his mouth, then closed it again. It's about principle. I agree. You pay for what you eat. I ate $3 of butter. You all tore through $1,200 of steak. I stood, slid my jacket on. Thanks for the invite. And hey, Brandon, congrats on the big promotion. Then I turned and walked out, leaving behind $3 and a $1,200 bill. My phone buzzed nonstop before I even reached my car. I ignored it. I just drove home, windows down, radio blasting. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel a shred of guilt about drawing a line. They wanted fair? Fair was $3 for the bread. That's exactly what they got. I made it home before the real tidal wave hit. My phone had vibrated the whole drive. I'd let it go, letting it rattle against the passenger seat while classic rock drowned out anything resembling thought. But once I stepped inside my apartment, locked the door, kicked my shoes off, The reality of what I'd done finally sank in. I'd walked out of a family dinner, left them with a $1,200 bill, tossed $3 on the table like I was tipping a street musician. A little part of me felt guilty, the part that learned as a kid to keep the peace, to be the easy one, the one who never made waves. But a bigger part felt satisfied, vindicated. They had brought me along to watch them stuff themselves, expected me to fork over $300 for bread in the honor of their presence. And I'd simply chosen not to play along. I poured myself a drink. Whiskey, neat, sat down on my couch, and finally picked up my phone. 43 missed calls. 67 texts. I took a slow sip and started reading. Brandon, what the hell was that? Brandon, you seriously just walked out? Brandon, do you have any clue how embarrassing that was? Brandon, call me back right now. Dad, that was uncalled for. Dad, we need to talk. Dad, your brother is very upset. Lena, unbelievable. Completely classless. Lena, don't expect more invitations. That one actually made me laugh. Like missing future bread-only dinners would be some crushing loss. I kept scrolling. Brandon, Dad had to cover your part. Brandon, you owe him $300. Brandon, this is so typical of you. Typical of me. What did that even mean? This was literally the first time I'd ever pushed back. More messages rolled past my screen. Dad, very disappointed in your behavior tonight. Dad, we'll discuss it tomorrow. Lena again. Brandon shouldn't have invited you. I told him you'd ruin it. That one hit harder than I expected. She told him I'd ruin it. Meaning they'd debated whether to include me at all. Brandon probably said something like, we should bring him, and Lena probably responded, fine, but don't blame me when he embarrasses us. I finished my drink. Poured another. My phone rang again. Brandon. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, he called again. And again. On the fourth try, I answered. What? I said. What? He snapped back. Are you seriously asking me what? Yes, I am. You walked out. You left us with the entire bill. No. I left you with your bill. I paid for my bread. $3. You left $3. That's what the bread cost. Actually, the bread was free. I was being generous with the butter. I heard him inhale sharply, trying to keep his cool. This isn't funny. I'm not laughing. Dad had to pay your portion. $300. You owe him. I don't owe anyone anything. I ate bread. Complimentary bread. You were part of the dinner. Was I? Because from where I sat, I was basically an audience member. You three dined. I had bread. Big difference. This is ridiculous. When you go out with people, you split the bill. When you go out with people, you actually order food. I wasn't invited to do that, remember? We didn't order for you. Your exact words. Silence. Then he said, that's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I meant we were celebrating. Lena and I. We wanted to order for ourselves. For the occasion. Great. So you ordered for yourselves. And I ordered for myself. Bread. Problem solved. You're being deliberately difficult. No, I'm being accurate. He exhaled hard. Look, Lena's furious. Dad's furious. You embarrassed all of us. I embarrassed you by not paying $300 for food I never touched. You embarrassed us by walking out of Morton's like some kind of... He stopped. Like what? I asked. Nothing. No, finish it. Like what? Like you couldn't afford it. And there it was, the truth. I can afford it, Brandon. I just chose not to pay for something I didn't actually consume. That's called being financially responsible. That's called being cheap. The word just hung there between us like smoke. Cheap. So you think I'm cheap because I wouldn't help fund your $400 steak? I think you're cheap because you showed up to a nice place and asked for bread. He shot back. Do you have any idea how that looked? Lena was mortified. She has a reputation at that restaurant. Then maybe she shouldn't have dragged along the cheap brother, I said. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. You definitely did. I got up and started pacing, because sitting still wasn't cutting it anymore. Let me ask you something. When you invited me to dinner, what exactly did you imagine was going to happen? I pictured us having a nice family meal, he muttered. Were you planning on covering me? Silence. Brandon, were you planning on paying for my meal? I was paying for the celebration dinner. For Lena and me. So no. So let me get this straight. You invited me to a restaurant where the cheapest entree is $50, told me you were treating, then waited until we sat down to reveal I'd be on my own. And now you're stunned I ordered bread? You could have ordered something modest. I ordered something that wouldn't make me feel like an idiot for helping bankroll your big celebration. That's not. And then after watching you three plow through nearly $1,000 of food, you expected me to kick in $300 for the privilege of being present. For eating bread. And I'm the one who's cheap? More silence. Finally he muttered, "You owe Dad $300. He covered you. I didn't ask him to. He's family. He wasn't going to let you stiff the restaurant." I didn't stiff anyone. I left payment for what I actually consumed. $3 isn't payment. It's precisely what the bread and butter amounted to. You're being absurd. No, I'm being steady. You're being entitled. In the background I heard Lena, all irritated, asking, "Is he being difficult?" Brandon covered the phone, but not well enough. "What do you think?" he whispered to her. Then back to me, "Look, just Venmo Dad the money. We can move forward." "No." "What do you mean no?" "I mean no. I'm not sending $300 for bread. If Dad wants reimbursement for stepping in on a bill I never agreed to pay, he can invoice me for exactly $3. Brandon let out a sharp laugh. No humor in it at all. "You're unbelievable, you know that?" "So I've heard. Don't expect to be invited to anything else." "Believe me, I won't." He hung up. I stared at my phone, heart still thumping, waiting for that old familiar guilt to come crashing in. It didn't. Instead, I felt lighter, like I'd been dragging around a weight for years, and someone finally cut the rope. It was the first time I'd drawn an actual boundary with my family, and the first time I'd held it. My phone buzzed. "Dad, we need to talk. Come by tomorrow?" I looked at the message. Thought about driving to his place, sitting in his living room, listening to him run through all the reasons I was wrong and why I owed Brandon money and an apology. I typed, "I don't think that's a good idea right now." His reply came instantly. "I'm disappointed in you." I almost typed back, "Same here," but stopped myself. Instead I wrote, "I'm sorry you feel that way." Dad replied, "You embarrassed your brother." On his celebration night, I wrote, "He invited me to a celebration dinner where I wasn't part of the celebration. That's on him." Dad, "You could have handled it better." Me, "So could he." Dad, "You're being stubborn." Me, "I'm being consistent." Dad, "This isn't over." Me, "I think it is." I switched my phone to Do Not Disturb, made myself dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta with jar sauce and a slab of garlic bread, which felt like a weirdly poetic choice under the circumstances. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the dinner in my mind. Brandon's face when I set down $3, Lena's disgusted stare, Dad's uncomfortable quiet. Around 2 in the morning I finally got up, opened my laptop, and started typing. I wasn't even sure why. Maybe I needed to get the whole thing out of my head before I started second-guessing myself. I wrote down everything. The invitation, the restaurant, the moment they said we didn't order for you, Lena's be grateful comment, the check, the $3. When I finished, it was 4 a.m. I read it over. It sounded completely insane, but it had all happened. On impulse, I posted it to Reddit, r/Amethyst hole, changed the names, hit submit before I could talk myself out of it. Then I finally fell asleep. I woke up to 300 notifications. My post had exploded overnight. Thousands of upvotes. Hundreds of comments. I scrolled through them, still groggy. NTA. They invited you to watch them eat, and then expected you to pay? That's nuts. The nerve to call it splitting fairly when you had bread. Your brother dropped $400 on a steak and wanted you to subsidize it? No. Lena telling you to be grateful you were invited says everything. You were there for decoration. And the $3 move, chef's kiss. A few people called me the asshole for walking out or for being petty, but overwhelmingly, everyone said what I'd been thinking but was afraid to admit. They tried to take advantage of me, and I simply didn't let them. Then my phone rang. Not Brandon, not Dad. My Aunt Linda, my mom's sister. I answered carefully. Hey, she said. "I heard about last night." Her voice was calm, almost cautious. "News travels fast. Brandon called me this morning. He's pretty worked up. Said you walked out on a family dinner. That's one way to frame it. Want to tell me your version?" So I did. All of it. The invitation, the bread, the bill, the $3. She went quiet for a moment, then actually laughed. "I'm sorry," she said, catching her breath. "I know I shouldn't laugh, but the image of you placing $3 on that table and walking out. You don't think I was wrong? Wrong? Honey, I think this was overdue. Your brother's been stepping on you for years. Your father too. That caught me off guard. You really think so?" "I know so. Your mother used to worry about it. She'd tell me Brandon got all the attention and you got all the expectations." My chest tightened. Mom said that. All the time. She tried to keep things balanced, but after she passed, Linda sighed softly. I'm not surprised something like this finally happened. I'm only surprised it didn't happen sooner. Dad's furious, I said. He claims I embarrassed Brandon. Your father covered a $300 bill for food you never touched. He's mad at himself for enabling it for so long. He's just aiming that frustration in your direction. Brandon says I owe him the money. Brandon can go to hell. I nearly dropped my phone because I'd never heard Aunt Linda swear in my entire life. Sorry, she said, but it's the truth. He invited you to some overpriced restaurant, told you he was treating, then casually revealed you weren't included in the treating part, and after that he expected you to pay anyway. That's not what family does. That's a setup. Lena says I'm classless. Lena married into money and thinks that automatically hands her class, she said. It doesn't. You know what actually counts as classy? Paying for what you eat, which is precisely what you did. Something in my chest loosened for the first time all week. Thanks, Aunt Linda. Don't thank me, she said. Just don't fold. You finally drew a boundary, and that's a healthy thing. Don't let them guilt you into stepping over it. After we hung up, I felt better, not perfect, but better, because at least one person in the family understood. Then my phone buzzed. Brandon again. Dad's lawyer says what you did could count as theft of services. I stared at that message, then typed back. Tell Dad's lawyer I paid for my services. $3. Itemized breakdown available upon request. He answered, you're going to regret this. I replied, I already don't. Then I blocked his number. Then blocked Lena's. Then blocked Dad's too. Not forever, maybe, but definitely for right now. I needed room to breathe. I needed time to sit with the fallout of them trying to make me pay for a celebration I wasn't part of. Then my phone buzzed again, unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me said answer. Hello? Is this the bread guy? I froze. What? From Reddit. The Mortons thing. Is this you? Oh no. How did you get my number? I'm a friend of your brother's wife, Lena. She's been texting people about what a jerk you are. Sent screenshots. Someone recognized the story from Reddit. My stomach sank. Great. The caller continued. Just wanted to say, you're a legend. The $3? Brilliant. Don't let them gaslight you. Then they hung up. I sat there holding my phone, realizing that this wasn't disappearing anytime soon. The story was out there now, on Reddit, in Lena's little text chains, drifting through their social circles. And suddenly I had a choice. I could back down, apologize, pay $300, and try to sweep it all away. Or I could stand firm. Let them be mad. Accept that some relationships just aren't worth the ticket price. I thought about Mom. Thought about what Aunt Linda said. Thought about years of being the afterthought to Brandon, about always being expected to be grateful for crumbs while he feasted. Then I opened the family group chat I was still technically part of and typed. For anyone confused, I paid for what I ate, $3 for butter. You all paid for what you ate, hundreds for steak and wine. That's how bills work. If that's embarrassing, maybe rethink what you order next time. Then I left the group chat, and I slept better than I had in years. A week passed. No calls, no texts, nothing but silence. And weirdly, it was peaceful. I went to work, came home, cooked for myself, watched my own shows, laughed at my own dumb jokes. And occasionally I checked Reddit. The post had blown up. Over 50,000 upvotes. People tagged it everywhere. Memes started appearing. One had me walking out of Morton's with the caption, $3 legend, in bold letters. Someone even made a fake movie poster, The Breadwinner, based on a true dinner. I didn't know whether to be embarrassed or proud, so I settled somewhere in the middle. Then came the emails. BuzzFeed asking permission to publish the story. A podcast host wanting to interview me for a series on petty justice. A local radio show wanting to read it on air, said it was absolute gold. I ignored all of them at first. Then I saw a subject line that stopped me cold. I used to be the other sibling too. Thank you. It was from a stranger, a woman in her 40s, who said she'd recognized herself in my story and felt less alone. She said standing your ground didn't make you selfish. It made you visible. That hit me harder than anything else. I wrote back, thanked her, told her I understood. Then I replied to the podcast host too. 2 days later the episode aired. We kept me anonymous, just the bread guy. But the reaction was wild. People started messaging with their own stories. Dinners where they were sidelined. Events where they were expected to pay for the privilege of attending. Turns out, lots of folks have siblings like Brandon. Then another text came from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, It's Chelsea from work. So, are you the bread guy? I blinked. Chelsea, marketing team, same building, always kind, always smiling in the elevator. Because if you are, I have questions. Also maybe a coffee? I actually laughed. Yes, I said. I am the bread guy. And coffee sounds great. That Friday, exactly 1 week after the steakhouse fiasco, I found myself sitting at a cafe across from Chelsea. She stirred her iced latte and said, "You really brought bread justice to the masses." I shrugged. Didn't plan on it. Just finally hit a breaking point. She grinned. "You didn't just draw a line, you carve it out of sourdough." We laughed, talked, stayed for a while. And as we were heading out, she paused and said, "I'm glad you stood up for yourself." And honestly, anyone who thinks $3 for butter is outrageous has never understood dignity. I didn't respond, just smiled. That night, I opened my laptop again, started writing. Not for Reddit this time, not for payback, just to write. My story, other stories, moments that made sense only after stepping away. Turns out, a lot can happen because of a breadbasket. Turns out setting boundaries doesn't lock doors, it opens the right ones. 3 months later, I got a wedding invitation. Not Brandon's, not Lena's, mine. Kidding. But Chelsea and I were still seeing each other. She'd call me bread guy sometimes, and I let her. 6 weeks after the dinner, Brandon sent one more text. "Still think you overreacted. But I kind of get it now." Sort of. I never responded. I didn't need to. Because sometimes the best closure isn't a dramatic final showdown. Sometimes it's a plate of garlic bread and a whole lot of quiet. And knowing that the next time someone tries to make you pay for their steak with your self-respect, you'll smile, reach for your wallet, and leave exactly $3 for the butter.